Okay, this is another cemetery story. I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I wasn't a real intelligent kid, mind you. I was rather kind of a slow child, actually. Didn't understand the concept of reality and non-reality, so let's just put that out there. We didn't have a lot of TV, and I mean, my family didn't even own a colored TV until later on, so, TV wasn't really had 3 channels back then, and nobody could afford cable, so I wasn't really smart on different things. So my dad used to go Veterans Day, every Veterans Day, to the cemetery. It was during the day, and me and my friend my cousins had a lot of fun out there. We'd take my friend and my cousins, and we had a blast. Us kids would play all kinds of graveyard games. It was the best fun ever. So here's what we did. We would run around the graveyard, and we try to find graves that had similar names to either people we knew or us or something like that. And when we did, we'd write the names down. It was kind of creepy to do these things, but we did it. One time I even found a grave that had a very similar name to mine. That was even creepier. But luckily the middle name was different. She had the same first name, same last name, but the middle name was different, so I felt a little better. But anyway, at one point we were hopping over, we had stopped that game and started hopping over the graves game. Now this consisted of, you couldn't step on where you thought the dead body might be. And I'm not really sure how good we were at that game, but Junior almost fell in a hole, and so we decided, stupid kids, we decided we was going to go look in this hole. Well, we looked in this hole, but we couldn't see very well in the hole because it was really, really dark. So we decided that my dad had a big flashlight in the glove box in the car. We ran back to the car, got the flashlight, came back to the hole, and we looked way down deep in the hole. Couldn't see nothing at first, so we pushed the flashlight way down in there. Still couldn't see nothing. So we decided we was going to get this rope. Now, I know this story's really dumb, but we decided, we're kids. Got to understand, we're kids. So we got this rope, and we decided we're going to lower the flashlight down into the hole so we can see what's in the hole. Don't ever do this. It's a dumb move. But we did it. We get the flashlight all the way down, lowered in the hole, only to figure out that what was in the hole was a casket, an open casket, and the whole top of the casket was open, and you think, oh my gosh, there was a dead body in there. But no, there wasn't no dead body in there. There wasn't no body in there at all. So we thought, well, that's strange. And then we went looking around, and we found 5 more of these. And we thought, they had no bodies either. So then me and Junior sat down and we thought, so where did the bodies go? Well, me and Junior came up with something. It was Night of the Living Dead, and it was zombies. Well, even before then, Night of the Living Dead was still out. We had both seen that movie. So we thought, back then it was a black and white version, of course, but we thought it must be Night of the Living Dead, and these must be zombies. And they dug their way out, and that's why the hole wasn't very big. It was just very deep. And the zombies are walking around here somewhere. Since it's daytime, they must be hiding. So me and Junior thought, our new game is find the zombies. Of course, Junior warned me that they eat brains. So I thought, we better have a weapon. Now, I know this sounds crazier than crazier, but the weapon of choice that me and Junior thought we'd use would be a flashlight, because of course zombies can't eat your brains if you blind them with light. And Junior thought he would use, I know this sounds crazy, but it seemed like a good idea when we were kids. He was going to use the rope and lasso them around the neck and then choke them with the rope. We thought it would work. And so we began searching the whole grounds. Well, this consists of looking everywhere through the trees and the lakes and the water. We had to search everywhere, of course. Pretty soon the funeral director came out and he said, "What are you kids doing?" And I said, "We're doing very important cemetery work. This is very important to mankind. We have to find the zombies and we have to kill them." He gave us this, oh my God look, and I know the look, and said, no, you guys better get out of there and come with me. Where are your parents? And I said, oh, my dad's walking around here somewhere. My mom's with him. So he took us back to the funeral hall, and he sat there with us for a while. And I said, well, we got to find the zombies or they're going to get away. And he goes, why do you think there's zombies in my cemetery? I go, because we found their empty graves. Then the guy got really concerned. Where did you find these empty graves? So me and Junior said we'd show him. So we took our flashlight and our rope and we went and showed him the empty graves. We showed him each one and told him our stories. And he listened with intent, like he was actually caring about what we said. Then he took us back to the funeral hall and told us not to worry about them holes and we shouldn't play by them. And of course, you don't tell kids that, but because that makes them all want to play there even more. And he called the police. The police came out and they made a report and they took pictures of the whole thing. And then they took pictures of me and Junior because we wanted to be in the pictures. I have no idea why, but we figured that we ought to be in the pictures because we discovered the holes. So it was our holes to discover, you understand what I'm saying? We figured, like, I guess in my theory, we were heroes. Of course, we still hadn't caught the zombies yet, so, but I figured we better get our picture in the paper because we were going to find those zombies for sure. So the funeral director told me that they weren't zombies, they were grave robbers. I'm like, grave robbers? So then we had a new theory. We had to find out what grave robbing was. So finally we kept asking the funeral director until he finally told me what grave robbing was. And he told me that people take bodies out of graves and they sell them to laboratories. And they make money off of them. And that's why people do it. And especially fresh graves, they make a lot of money off of these cadavers. Of course, me and Junior didn't know what in the world a cadaver might be. But it sounded pretty technical. But Junior said that he had a great idea what he thought a cadaver might be. He said, I know why they're making money off the cadavers. And I said, oh, how are they making money off the cadavers? He goes, well, we had the answer all along. They dug up the dead bodies, they made them into zombies, then that's when they're called, instead of zombies, they're called cadavers, and then they sell them to these science laboratories to find out how they can still be alive. And then they're very interesting, and that's what they're making the money off of. I told Junior that was an excellent idea. That's probably how what is going. And we should keep an eye out for these grave rob people. Of course, what we didn't know is grave robbers come at night. And of course, we were little kids, and our parents wasn't going to let us out there at night. So now we had to convince both of our parents to take us to the cemetery at night. We had my mom and dad convinced that we would do this. But as we get to the cemetery, guess what? Yep, you got it. Apparently, they had made some alternate choices because of the grave robbing, and they had decided to put a fence up around the cemetery and lock the gates at night. Yes, they did. So we had to wait outside the cemetery to find these grave robbers. And my mom and dad were patient with us. They did wait till 2 o'clock in the morning. But the only thing we seen in the cemetery weren't grave robbers. They were just black shadow people that kept walking from headstone to headstone to headstone to headstone. And we knew they weren't grave robbers because after they'd go through a couple of headstones, they'd disappear. And my dad said, those aren't grave robbers. Those are the black shadow people. And I said, well, maybe they're the ones robbing the graves. My dad explained to me that my theory was all wrong because they couldn't be robbing the graves. They didn't have physical bodies to rob graves. I said, oh, well then they couldn't be doing it. So I went home and told Junior about the whole thing. And he decided that we had the whole thing right all along. He says, you know what? You were stupid. I had the whole thing right in the first place. I says, what do you mean? He says, you seen the black shadow people, right? I says, yep, sure did. Seen a whole bunch of them. He says, okay, they're going into the bodies are digging their way out of the graves, and they're becoming Night of the Living Dead zombies. I said, oh, that's what's happening. He says, yeah, and then during the daytime, when those black shadow people had to disappear, then they have to leave the bodies somewhere. By then, the bodies are already out of the cemetery, and they're in the city somewhere, and so they just have to leave the bodies wherever they can, try to get back to them the next night. I said, oh, that explains it all. Now, I know my theories weren't all right, because now I'm an adult. I know those theories are crazy. But, in any case, there were actual graves, there were actual missing bodies, and there were actually grave robbers, and there were actual shadow people walking around the cemetery. So either way, the story is kind of creepy. That's the end.